Hello everyone, I'm Cynthia.
Hi, I'm Danny.
We'll be hosting the 2020 Play College Seminar. Today we'll learn about the path that the 5 seniors took towards college acceptance. As all of you know, today is also Father's Day. At the end of the seminar, we'll also have a few slides dedicated to our hardworking fathers.
For those of you who are new to Play Leadership is an unincorporated nonprofit organization that emphasizes high standards of leadership, public speaking, and community service in youth.
During the pandemic, many subgroups, including math, art, and reading, have continued to serve the community through online classes. Play has also organized COVID-19 face shield and mask donations.
Thanks to all the people that still continue participating in our programs. Our society will be better because of your efforts.
Thank you, Payback, for donating 4,000 masks and $920 to local firefighters and $659 to the Tri-Valley Chinese American community during the pandemic. First, we'll have each graduating senior introduce themselves. Next, we'll have our senior Q&A. After that, we'll have a question for the fathers of the graduating seniors. We'll finish off with a music recording dedicated to all of the devoted fathers of Play leadership.
Now, our seniors will introduce themselves in the order of Angela, Andi, Nathan, Ashley, and then Catherine. Please include which university and major you chose.
Hi everyone, my name is Angela. I'm one of the presidents of Play currently, and I'll be attending UCLA in the fall as a Regents Scholar, and I'll be double majoring in cognitive science and computer science/linguistics.
Hello. My name is Andi. I was the former leader of Play Math. I'll be attending the University of Chicago next year with an intent to major in mathematics and economics.
Hi, I'm Nathan. I was the EVP, and I'm going to be attending Vanderbilt University, majoring in medicine, health, and society on the pre-med track.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I was one of the vice presidents, and next year I'll be attending University of Michigan, and I'm hoping to study computer science.
Hello, I'm Catherine. I'll be attending the University of Southern California as a business administration major.
Okay, thank you. Let's begin the senior Q&A. The seniors will answer each of the 10 questions voluntarily. If you have any additional questions, please put them in the chat box.
First, what activities did you do to help you get into your dream colleges?
Well, I mean, okay, I guess I'll go. Like activities I did. Well, I think the focus should be on like what you enjoy yourself, right? I played saxophone, so I did band all for years, right? Because like I enjoyed it. And then like gradually because like I was in band, like yes, I worked my way up. I was a assistant band director senior year, in band council because I enjoyed it, right? And then same thing with play math, right? Because I like, I like done math for a long time. I've done competition math, AMC, stuff like that. Like it made sense, I guess, to go and like, do math, right? So like combining that and then with like my like sort of like interest in teaching, right? So then I decided that like play math should be a group dedicated to teaching mathematics, right? Pretty simple. I guess like ultimately you shouldn't really focus on like what gets you into college because what gets you into college is actually what you and then like also I do regret like for example not really doing sports in high school. I quit swimming freshman year and maybe I should have kept doing that or maybe I should have joined like sports swim teams like that.
Yeah,
But
going on
that's
from
what I
that,
got.
I think, sorry, Andy, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, I think Andy makes a really good point. that you should do the activities that you genuinely enjoy and find your passion in high school. I found that a lot of the activities that my parents encouraged me to do, or activities I was kind of pushed into, I didn't really enjoy, and I didn't really make an effort to really become involved in them and make an impact within them, which is what colleges really want to see. So the ones that I found myself and the ones that I actually enjoyed, I found myself like rising up into leadership positions as I participated in them for more years. For example, I was in yearbook all 4 years, and I became the editor-in-chief my junior year and my senior year. And I think that was a really good leadership position to have. It's something that I wrote about in my college essays, and ultimately the activities you participate in should be experiences that you are able to learn from and get insight that you can then write about in your college essays, because that's a really important factor that a lot of people don't consider when signing up for as many activities as they can.
Yeah, I agree with Angela. Like, the main activity I did in high school was working with the American Cancer Society. And this was something that like I had a personal interest in, and I dedicated like all 4 years to this activity. And I also was able to write about it in some of my college essays as compared to like as compared to other volunteer organizations that I was in that I just did kind of to like just to put it like there on my college application.
I think like throughout high school, I was still trying to find my passion. So like the first 2 years, I tried like different things. But then like when it came to like figuring out what to major in, I was interested in business, but I never really had like business experiences from like clubs in school. So I just used like summer programs to like build my knowledge in that topic.
Again, what Angela said, it's always good to do things that you're interested, not stuff that people tell you to do, because then you'll actually have something to write about in your essays, or just grow as a person. It's always fun to do what you like to do as well.
Okay, thank you. How did you decide which college to apply early decision/action to?
I guess I can answer first. So I got into my college off early decision. And the way I kind of decided what that was is because when you early decision to a school, you commit to it like fully, like legally you have to go to that school. And so the way I decided on that was, it was a school that I was interested in, but it was a school that was what I thought was slightly out of my reach. And so as a result, if I got into the school, I would be very happy with it. But if I didn't, then, no biggie. The possibility of me getting into it wasn't super high anyway. Of course, there's a higher chance for you to get into an early decision or action school. But yeah, that was how I did it.
I mean, like I applied early action. Like I guess honestly, as for like decision making, you don't ever apply early decision unless you're sure that you want to go to that school, right? Because like for example, like if you get accepted early decision and then you're like, I don't want to go to that school, it's very difficult to get out of it. Like technically you can get out of it via loopholes, via stuff like that, right? You can say you don't have the money to go. That's one way to do it. But like it's risky, right? Because let's say you do get into like, for example, I don't know, let's say you ED, you get into Columbia early decision, right? And then you're like, I don't like Columbia, it's New York. New York's a terrible place. I don't like New York, right? I want to go to UCLA or something like that, right? Then your options are either go to Columbia or like not, or like keep applying to schools. And then what happens is Columbia tells like all the other colleges in America, this kid like cheated the system, right? And then you don't go to college. Or you can tell them I don't have the money to go. That's the third option. Like if you're not 100% sure you want to go to that school, you do not ED ever, right? That will, because early decision specifically, not early action, right? There's a difference. Early decision specifically is reserved for 100% I would go to this school, right? If you're not 100% like Columbia is the one school I wanted to go to since third grade, then don't early decision Columbia, right? I mean, you could try to like gamble and play the odds, say, oh, early decision gives me a better chance, but if you're not happy with your decision in the end, it's not worth it. As for early action is a bit different because early action just says like it gives you results earlier, but you can still choose whether or not you want to, right? So for
Yeah.
example, if you were to early action in school and you got accepted, you can still apply to other schools. You can still apply to the UCs. You can still apply to other out-of-state schools, maybe USC stuff like that. And then you can still choose, and you have to make your choice by May, which is the same for all regular schools. Um, but early action generally is considered like less like likely. Like the probability of you getting in doesn't increase that much. And early action is also often used by like the more prestigious schools, right? Like for example, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, Yale. They're all early action. Specifically, early action, which means you can only early action to one school. Um, Ultimately, stuff like this is going to take a lot of research. It's going to take a lot of you figuring out what you want for college. And then, like for example, when I early actioned, I didn't really know what I wanted, right? So then ultimately, my early action didn't work out. But then in the end, it's fine because I didn't really want to go to that school anyway.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
agree with that. Personally, I applied to Yale early action, restrictive early action, which prevented me from applying to other schools early. Um, and upon doing research for the other colleges I applied to, regular decision, and doing research for the why college essay that you typically have to write, I realized that the other colleges I was applying to were a lot better fits for me. So one tip I would really recommend for anyone looking to apply early action or just deciding what school to apply to in general is to do research on that school enough to write a why college essay or a why do I want to go to your college essay. And that will kind of force you to thoroughly research all of the schools to really see which one is the best fit for you. Because when I was researching for my other schools, I realized that I should have applied to other schools early action, or I would have regretted that decision less. But and for a lot of you, I think are interested in applying to Ivies early, there are, or just other colleges in general, there are a lot of varying success rates and like the differences in which early action or early decision application will make you more likely. For example, I know UPenn typically has a lot higher early decision rates of success compared to other Ivies like Yale or Harvard. So I would really recommend doing your research on the school and also policies about early action and early decision.
Yeah, for me personally, like I definitely did a lot of research early on, but I felt like when the deadline came, I was still kind of in the early stages of like writing essays, and I just didn't feel prepared to kind of commit to one school. So for early action, I applied to like 2 or 3 of my safety schools and just target schools, and then I think I left like the reach schools for the January 1st deadline because I felt like as like time progressed through like November, December, I kind of like got used to the process of like writing all these essays, and I also felt like I was able to like do them better with like more time instead of applying early decision to this one school.
Oh yeah, I agree with what everyone said. And like just to make sure that the school you're applying early decision to is like the best fit for you, you should definitely like do research on like the specific program or major you're applying to, because like once you get there, you'll have an idea of what kind of courses you'll be taking and like what path they'll send you on once you're in that major.
Perfect.
Good, thank you. So, which awards did you get?
I can go first again. So as everyone here should probably know, Play does PVSA. A lot of Play like I want to say incumbents, like that's not a lot of people that like do play for multiple years will end up participating in the Presidential Volunteer Service Award. It's not an extremely prestigious award, but it's not exactly like, I mean, it's worth doing, right? If you're volunteering, you may as well sign up for it, record your hours, right? And everything counts. If anything, like, I know a lot of you guys are like interested in doing PVSA, right? Personally, I think that like the level you get, like bronze, silver, gold, doesn't matter as much as simply the fact that you like took the time to record your hours and like they added up to something, right? So PVSA is something that I think everyone should consider doing, especially if you're interested in volunteering, which I know a lot of students are. Um, like apart from that, I participated in the AMC, so the American Mathematics competitions. I qualified for AMY, but then I didn't keep really going, right? Like stuff like that, like you really have to not only enjoy it, but you have to like be good at it, right? Like the people that do well on these competitive, like AMC, for example, a lot of them start training like what, second grade, third grade. Um, I know like other exams, like for example, the Bio Olympiad or the Chem Olympiad, you can generally start training later. I was planning on taking the Bio Olympiad. It didn't work out. I got lazy. I was gonna take the Physics Olympiad as well. I also got lazy. I mean, like, but if you're like, for example, interested in those topics, which I know some of you guys are, then definitely like, for example, if you plan on majoring in, for example, like med or bio, right? Like maybe taking the Bio Olympiad, trying to get a semifinalist qualification, that could look good in your application. And that can also make you feel more confident in the subject, right? Like, remember these awards aren't just for colleges, they're for you as well, right? Because like the award that I got for AMC, for example, it doesn't like it's not just that it like looks good in your application, right? It also makes me confident that when I go to like study mathematics in the future, I'll be able to keep up with the rigorous coursework at U Chicago. That's my perspective.
Before I go, I want to preface this with a statement that just because we got these awards doesn't mean that you should then go on to pursue these exact awards. There's a lot of awards in many various fields, and you should really focus on the fields of study that you're interested in. But I also participated in the PVSA. I was a gold medal winner, I think, for the last 2 years, but it really doesn't matter that much. Obviously, gold is like looks better, but it correlates with the number of hours of service you've done. So I also participated in the USABA, which is the biology Olympiad. I was a semifinalist for that. And I also earned various awards within the clubs I participated in. For example, I was in HOSA Club at my school, which is a health careers club. I won second at states in one of the events, and I went on to internationals. So participating in clubs like MUN and getting awards like that
我跟你这样人说话，教育你。
to demonstrate your progress and initiative in going into the field of study that you're interested in.
Does anyone else have something to say to this one? Because I just wanted to add like academic awards and like MUN like debate, those are awards, right? But like also like if you participate in a sport, right? Like qualifying for NCS, for example, that counts as an award, right? Like that's an achievement. Don't think of an award as like a certificate on a piece of paper or a medal. Think of an award as like recognition for what you've done, right? You shouldn't be pursuing awards because you want to, for example, be like, oh, I'm better than you at MUN, I have more gavels or something like that, right? Or I have more, I rank better at speech and debate than you, therefore I'm better than you, right? I'm better than the other applicants that are applying to Duke or whatever, right? That's not the point of awards. The point of awards is to say, I've spent time and effort in this topic or subject or like sport or you know, competitive aspect that I'm interested in, right? And then this award like is a tangible sort of sign of that, right? So that's just like my final take.
I guess in that vein, I should say this. I am lifeguard certified and CPR certified. I guess that could also count as an award. And because I'm going into the medical field, this kind of stuff like relates to what I want to do, and it's something that I enjoy doing. And so this award actually like means something to me, as well as giving back to the community, and I guess looking good on a college application, but that's not the point. And yeah.
Yeah, my only awards were the PVSA awards, but I would think like when someone's looking at your application, like if you participated in a program that's like directly related to your field of study, that would look just as good as an award.
Yeah, my awards weren't that elaborate on my college application, and I believe like on the Common App there was only like 5 spaces where you got to put like academic awards, and I think mine mostly just came from like studies and also the PBSA and other like volunteer awards.
Okay, thank you. What summer programs do you recommend attending?
Okay, I guess I can start again. Again, it's sort of the look for something you're interested in. Don't just do some summer program just because it looks good on an application. Like, you see a lot of people going to like underprivileged areas of different countries to build houses, and that's good and all, but I guess look for something that also directly impacts you and like helps you grow. I don't know how to describe it. I guess I found a job. Job experience is basically a summer program. I lifeguarded, and that kind of stuff helps you build work experience, like working with other people, being in the workforce, that kind of stuff.
Yes, don't forget a job counts as a summer program, right? Like I know you guys are all going to want to sign up for the camps at Harvard, the camps at UMich, the camps at what's the one everyone signs up for? Like the ones at Stanford, a lot of people do that. A lot of people do the Yale one. Everyone tries to go to UPenn, right? Everyone like the camps at the Ivies, basically, right? Like they're good, but like that's not the only thing available to you, right? And like I know Nathan said like don't do it just because it looks good on paper, right? I will slightly disagree with that because like there are a few that look so good on paper that there's really like if you can make it, then you definitely should. RSI is an example of that at MIT, but that's super prestigious. It's very hard to get into. There are also a lot of free summer programs. I know Bank of America hosts one, and it's free. If anything, the free ones are a lot more prestigious. Like if you really want to pursue like prestige and you can make it into one of those, definitely go because just being able to attend one of those programs actually like makes you like nationally like top like 1% or something, right? So like there is like a ranking system sort of built into these, but only like the very top, right? If you don't really want to consider like being the top 1% and like trying to like get into RSI, for example, then just do whatever interests you, right? You don't have to fly off to like some out of state area to go to camp at some college that you've never been to before. You can just, I don't know, like get a job, right? Like Nathan. Nathan worked at a water park and
The one in Dublin, yeah.
the one in Dublin, yeah. Nathan got to ride the water slide quite a few times, and that's pretty fun, you know. So whatever
Yeah.
you think is enjoyable, you know.
Yeah, that being said, I think it's really important to use your summers wisely, whether that's doing an internship or doing research in a field that can be really, really helpful. Real world experience can help you decide if that's a career that you want to pursue, if that's something you're genuinely interested in the real world. And for those of you that are interested in bio or chem or research or going pre-med or anything like that, summer program I did the freshman, like the summer after my freshman year was at Stony Brook University in Long Island. It was a biotechnology summer camp, and I was basically introduced to the basics of research. And that was it was one of the best summers of my life. And that's another thing that I want to stress, that summer programs can not only be educational and like useful, but also a really, really fun time for you to meet people, explore new areas, and just get really, really great experiences. I can genuinely say that that month was one of the best months of my life. And Stony Brook Violet, like that summer camp is also tied to other research programs at Stony Brook, like Garcia and Simons, if you've heard of those. And a lot of that, like this summer camp is kind of like a feeder into those if you're interested in that kind of thing. So I would highly recommend Stony Brook summer camps. I also had a job like my junior summer and my senior summer. I think having a job is one of the most important things that you can do to set you apart from more like steady focused individuals, as getting real world experience can be really beneficial, and it was something that I was able to write about in my essays. And I
Angela,
also
where did you work?
I worked at Vitality Bowls and Boba Guys, so those are really fun places. But I also found an internship my last summer at a small nonprofit, and it was dedicated towards helping foster youth find more mental health resources in their areas. And the nonprofit was really small, so I was able to do a variety of things like looking for grants, even applying for grants, running their Google Ads campaigns, and so marketing. I did a lot of different things that I wouldn't have expected to be able to do, but there's so many small nonprofits out there in our area that you can just send a cold email to and ask, can I help you for this summer? And a lot of them are desperate for help. So I really recommend doing that too.
Yeah, I definitely wish I started doing summer programs earlier, like as early as freshman year, because I didn't start until the summer of after my junior year. So like I think if you have a limited amount of summer programs like me, I recommend finding ones that can be reflected in your essays or that are like directly related to the major you're applying to.
Yeah, for me, same as Catherine, like freshman and like sophomore year summer, I didn't really do much other than volunteer. But last summer, I actually wanted to find like a STEM program. And then I remember like during junior year, like the winter, I was applying to a bunch just to see where I can get in and like see where my interest would be at. And last summer, I went to a bioengineering research camp at Stanford, and I actually like really enjoyed it because although I'm not majoring in like bioengineering, like that camp kind of solidified my interest like more towards engineering and like not towards bio. So that really helped me. And I think just being in a college setting like the summer before senior year can be really helpful because that can also be reflected in your essay, and just showing that you've done like whether it's like research or just anything that's related to your major can really help you boost like your college application as a whole.
Okay, thank you. What was the biggest factor in your applications?
Well, I mean, we all know this is a tough question to answer, and there's no one answer, right? There's probably not even like 2 or 3 answers. Um, Although I think, like one thing that you could consider or like that you need to consider is that when you apply to a college, right, all they really get are like numbers, right? They get maybe your SAT, they get your GPA, right? They get a list of things you've done, right? And then on the Common App, you only have like what is it, 200 characters to tell them a list of the things you've done, right? Per like thing, right? So then, like for example, like if I were to say I was like in band, right? If I wanted to list that, I would have to write like tenor saxophone, and everything would be abbreviated. Assist band manager, played 4 years jazz band. That's all you can say, right? And then what you have left is your essays. And it's really in your essays that we'll be talking about this more, right? But in your essays, it's not your essay should not be a place to talk about the things you've done. Right? I know that some essay prompts will seem that way, but the essay should be a place to talk about yourself. I guess like my Common App wasn't very good, right? My Common App didn't really do that. And I feel like directly as a result of that, I got rejected from pretty much everywhere I applied to, or at least like most of the Common App schools that I applied to, apart from my safeties. So like all my reaches said no because my essay didn't really reflect who it was, right? But my U Chicago essay, which I put a lot like of more time into, right? I feel like my U Chicago essay reflected an important part of my identity, which is like my independence, right? I'm a pretty independent person, you know. I like to do things by myself. I like to like challenge myself. I don't like I'm not the most social person, right? And I feel like my U Chicago essay reflected that aspect of my personality a lot better than anything else I've written, right? And maybe ultimately, I don't know, right? I'm not the admissions officer. They don't give you like a reasons why you got in, right? You don't get like a list. Why were you rejected? Why were you accepted, right? But I feel personally that because my essay reflected not just what I've done and my achievements, but who I am as a person and what I can bring to the school, not academically, right? Not intelligence-wise, but like personality-wise, right? That may have been a part of my success.
Yeah. I feel like the essays probably are a very big factor because I remember my college counselor told me like everyone probably has the same grades like as you, and as long as you kind of hit that benchmark that the college is looking for, it's like it's really only the essays that will like make you stand out to your like to the college like application people. And for me, I think my personal statement like showed like a side of me that like my stats or like my activities didn't really show.
Yeah, so like just a tip, I think if you do want to talk about what you've done in your essay, just make sure to like give background or talk about like what led you to like becoming interested in what you're doing.
I guess extracurriculars, like activities that you do, summer activities, also play a really big factor in it because like everybody has grades, and I guess they expect you to have good grades. But if your grades aren't as strong as maybe the rest of the people at your school, you can always find ways to make up for it. That's what's so interesting about these college applications is if you do a lot of extracurricular summer activities that stand out, that make your application much more personal, then again, you'll raise your chances of getting into a college.
Yeah. I feel like we can move on. The next few questions have a lot of overlap with this one.
Okay. How did you decide on which major to choose?
I can start on this one. For me, this was a really, really difficult decision because I didn't really know what I wanted to do in high school. And as a result, I did a lot of like different things that I was interested in, but I had trouble kind of blending them into one major. That being said, for those of you that don't know what you want to major in, whether you're a like incoming freshman or a junior, honestly, I would just say don't worry about it that much. It's not that big of a factor, in my opinion, unless you're going to like engineering or something like that. But a lot of colleges have a school of letters and sciences, and that basically encompasses a large range of majors. And you're free to mostly move around and change your major. I know I have friends in college that have changed their major like 5 times, and they're fine. So I wouldn't stress about it too much. But personally, one of the things that helped me decide what I wanted to major in, which is cognitive science and a double major in CS and linguistics, I decided that I took a course at UC Berkeley over the summer, and it was called Human Neuropsychology. And it was kind of the first experience I had with psych and cognitive science and stuff of that nature. And UC Berkeley tends to be a very strong college in that field. And I was blown away at how interested I was in all of the things that I had learned. So one thing I recommend is just to immerse yourself in as many activities as possible and classes and just anything that might spark an interest in you, explore that further. And it just might be something that you can follow to your college major. And one last note, there's so many different interdisciplinary majors offered at various colleges. For example, cognitive science is a combination of psychology, neuroscience, computer science, linguistics, and philosophy. So if you're sort of the person that's interested in like different majors, maybe look for a way to blend them together.
Yeah, and I agree with Angela on this one. Doing a lot of activities can help you really decide what major you want to do, or just like what you want to do in general. I volunteered at an ER for about a year every week, and that kind of got my interest up in working in the healthcare field. And along with that, I took an anatomy class at Las Positas College. and I really enjoyed that anatomy class. I've always been interested in that kind of stuff, but this kind of brought it out even further. In the class, we got to do a lot of dissections. I know a lot of people like dissections, and there are also 2 cadavers, which if you don't know what a cadaver is, it's a dead body. And we got to do a lot of stuff with those, and that really sparked my interest, and that's how I picked my major and I guess my track for college, which is pre-med.
Yeah, for me personally, like as mentioned previously, my summer program really helped me solidify my interest in CS. And before that, I was like debating between like CS and like bio like med stuff. And I don't know, just doing like bioengineering and like stuff that's interdisciplinary really like helps you like, I don't know, just have a clear vision of like what you would want to do.
Oh, I don't think like school classes are like enough to help you decide what major to choose. So I recommend like getting real life experiences because that's like what will ultimately help you choose your major. Like for example, I took AP psychology in school and like because I thought that was interesting and like I finished the course thinking it was interesting too. But the next summer I did a psychology research program and I realized that it wasn't for me.
Okay, thank you. So, how did you select courses in high school, and how did that affect your applications?
For me, I kind of went down the path of like take as many AP classes as possible, as I'm sure a lot of you guys did, and a lot of you guys will. Over high school, I think I took 15 AP classes. And personally, I don't regret that decision. I think it was a big factor in helping me get into college and also like exposing me to different subjects. And I found that the AP classes I was in were a lot more interesting and fast paced and just more fun to be in almost than regular level classes. Especially for topics that you're interested in, whether that be biology, math, or psychology, just try and at least involve yourself in some AP classes. I would recommend it, especially if you want to get that kind of extra boost of rigor in your application.
Yeah, one piece of advice I would have is to like talk to upperclassmen who had previously taken AP courses before because they can like tell you which ones like are relatively like easier or harder. And personally, I like probably took the ones that like most people take, like AP Calc, like the AP Sciences, and I would say they just help you like show rigor in your academics.
To add on to that, just because other people say that the class is hard or difficult or not fair does not necessarily mean that that is like reflected, right? Like if you have 200 people telling you that not to take a class, then maybe you shouldn't, right? But like ultimately you also have to consider your interests, your strengths, your weaknesses. Um like like I don't know, as an example, right? Like didn't a lot of people were like, oh, you shouldn't take AP Lit and A Push together, right? That makes sense. But at the same time, right, then like maybe like looking back, maybe I was like, because in junior year, honestly, I had a decent amount of free time on my hands. Maybe looking back, I could have said, oh, maybe I should have taken A Push, could have done it. But then looking back again, I don't care about history very much, so it wouldn't really be worth it to take AP US history because it didn't really interest me anyway, right? So like, don't take classes based on their difficulty alone, and also you need to consider everything you're taking. You also need to consider what you're interested in, right? Because if I took AP US history, I would have just slept through every single class because I don't care about George W. Bush or President Franklin Roosevelt or the New Deal. Not that I don't care about it, but like it doesn't really affect what I want to do in the future, right? So take classes that you enjoy because that's how you're going to do the best in them.
And on another note, if you have a college in mind that you want to go to, I would recommend looking at their AP course credit policies because when I came to, well, when I searched up UCLA AP course policies, I was pretty disappointed to find out that I only get credit for like 3 of my classes. So that's another consideration. But that doesn't really affect the class that you take rather than like the test, like if you decide to take the AP test following the class.
I mean, I'm sure that a lot of parents are still going to make you take the AP test.
Yeah.
I know my mom made me take all the AP tests, even though none of them like actually give me credit at U Chicago, because they really don't, like, they literally only give credit for STEM classes. None of the other ones I took actually like matter. But I mean, like, if anything, like, you could also, like, they are expensive, but ultimately that's a talk you have to have with your parents or your student, or like if you're a kid watching this, you have to like talk about that with your parents. If you're a parent watching this, talk about that with your student, right? Ultimately, if you're not sure, if you're younger, if you're a student, or if you yourself are like on the younger side right now, for example, maybe you're a rising junior, a rising sophomore, like, you should probably take it. Like, I know the tests are like 3.5 hours long. They're not fun per se, but like, you don't know what college you're going to yet, right? As for like us this year, like, we already knew what colleges we were going to by the time the test rolled around. So we had that knowledge to make an informed decision about whether tests were worth it. But if in doubt, and like, if you are willing to pay the money, you should take it, I think. Take the
If
AP
getting,
specifically.
if getting
not the-
credit is something that you're looking like for in your classes, I would really recommend instead taking college classes. Those credits transfer a lot more easily. They look just as impressive usually on your transcripts, and they can be a good way to engage in college level work before you enter.
I guess if you kind of already have, if you already have a bit of an idea of what you want to do, then obviously take classes that are indicative of that. At around the end of junior year, I realized I wanted to do stuff in the medical industry. And so for senior year, I decided to take the sports medicine class at our school. Not exactly super popular, but you know, it was something that I was interested in. And I had a lot of fun taking it. And so that's kind of the mentality that I had.
Go on.
Thank you. Are college counselors necessary / helpful?
Ashley and I had a college counselor, so I think like I can answer this. They helped us look for like competitions to enter and like summer programs to apply to, but obviously I didn't end up doing like all of them, like just the ones that I was interested in. But I think it's like you can definitely find some on your own as well. And for essay editing, like, you know your writing voice the best. So like sometimes when they gave me like feedback on my essays or edited like certain sentences, like I still wanted to change it back because what they gave me like wasn't how I tried to sound in my essays.
Yeah, like I agree with Catherine. Like I feel like college counselors are helpful in helping you like with the overall college application process. Like our counselor helped us kind of generate a college list of reach schools, safety schools, and like target schools. But for the essay editing, I wouldn't say it was that helpful because ultimately it was still my own writing, and like no matter how much they changed it, like I still wanted it to be my own voice instead of like someone else's.
Yeah, I agree with that. I had a college counselor. I honestly don't think that she was that helpful in helping me decide which schools I wanted to apply to, how to apply, how to navigate the Common App, the UC app, and how to write my essays. Like, if you're someone that struggles with writing, I think it can be helpful. Maybe not getting a college counselor, but to find someone to edit your essays. It can be really helpful. But unless you're really, really new to the college application process and you have a lot of questions, or you're someone that craves structure, I wouldn't recommend college counseling. I think the most helpful thing they did for me was just kind of keep me in line and make sure I wasn't procrastinating too much on my apps, which is something that I really appreciate. But other than that, like
Personally, I had a really good experience with my college counselor. I guess it was less of a counselor / student relationship and more of just like between friends. And one thing that college counselors can really help you with is, like Catherine and Ashley said, lists of activities. They can recommend things to you. Like I got the idea for getting my lifeguarding job from my counselor, that kind of stuff that you would never think of, programs you may not have never heard of before, that kind of stuff.
The earlier the better, really. Like I know, judging based on what Ashley and Catherine said, you guys had counselors starting like maybe sophomore year, freshman year.
Yeah, like junior year.
Right? Yeah. So like, I feel like the earlier the better, not just because they have more time to plan stuff out for you, but you also get more time to like get to know each other. Like because the counselor student relationship shouldn't be it's not the same as a teacher student relationship, right? Like a teacher student relationship, clearly one person has more authority than the other, right? But in counselor student relationship, you guys should be on equal footing. Yes, one person is paying and the other person is getting paid, right? But in that sense, you're not equal. But in all other ideas, right? Like you guys should like be helping each other, right? The student as like a counseltee should be providing their ideas and being open with their counselor. And the counselor should also be understanding of what the student wants, understanding of what the parents want, and trying to find a balance between pushing the student and then also like reeling them in, and then also like being not necessarily a mentor, but like a guide, I guess. Like if like picture the student as a marble rolling down a hill. The counselor isn't there to speed up the marble or slow it down. The counselor are the guide, like rails, right? Rails that go down the hill that help the marble go in a straight line. That's my metaphor. I don't know if that made sense. I can redo it in Chinese if you want.
Yeah, also like I know some people find like school counselors really helpful, but personally for me, like I didn't really have a close relationship with my counselors, so I felt like she didn't know much about me. And when she was writing my recommendation letters, like it was mainly like I had to tell her a lot of stuff about me in order for her to like help me like get into college. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing also. Generally, like in the Cone app or in like EC apps or stuff like that, your school counselor is going to have to write a recommendation letter for you. So it is a good idea to make a connection with them, like get close to them during the school years.
Thank you. So what did you write about your college application essays?
I'm gonna go first. So I wrote many, well, I don't know, okay, I didn't actually write that many essays because I know a lot of people apply to more schools than I did. There's two essays for me that stood out. There was my Common App, and then there was also, if you know U Chicago's application process, they have it's sort of like a non-conventional essay, right? Like most college essays you'll see will ask you to talk about yourself or whatever. U Chicago lets you write about anything, and they also give you a few prompts. One of the prompts this year is a hot dog a sandwich, right? Another prompt was, like, I forgot all the prompts, right? But the general idea is that they want you to be creative, right? So for my Common App, I wrote about my coming of age story going from 9th grade to 12th grade, the experiences of my family, and like stuff like that, right? And I tried to make it like, be like, oh, this is what I've done. This is how I've become the person I am today, right? For my U Chicago essay, I wrote about Crow Canyon Road, right? So there's a bit of a contrast there. And ultimately, it's not the essay that I tried to write about my progression through time that succeeded, but it's the essay that I wrote about a gate that I saw on Crow Canyon Road that I felt was a lot stronger. Don't feel like college application essays, you need to explicitly talk about yourself. The college application essay is not only a way for you to talk about yourself, but also to showcase your personality through your writing. So if you are confident in your writing, then write whatever feels right to you. Write whatever you feel shows yourself best. Don't write what you feel you need. Like don't use the essay to fill up the gaps that you feel like you didn't have enough words to talk about on the other parts of your application, right? That's not going to work for you. I mean, of course, some of the essay questions are written like that, but ultimately, like, talk about what motivates you, talk about why you're motivated, talk about things you like to do, talk about your hobbies, right? I talked about racing games and I talked about Pokemon Go in my essays, right? And those essays actually I felt were better, stronger than the ones I talked about my academic experiences or my internship experiences or whatever, right? Whatever you connect with is what you should write about, not what you think application uh, admissions officers are going to connect with, because they're not connecting with your achievements, they're connecting with you.
I guess to add on to that and to reinforce, you can write your essay about literally anything as long as it makes sense. Like you can write about something trivial or something not so trivial. I wrote one of my essays about reading, like one of these books that I liked. I wrote one of my essays about being on a Discord server. Like you can write about anything. So I think the essay that really made the most impact, or the essay that I thought was the most impactful, would probably be the essay I wrote about one of my experiences volunteering in the ER. It was about the time I had to translate Chinese for an elderly Chinese couple. And you can write your essay about something big like the ER, but you need to make it personal. And so this experience, I wrote about how it changed me as a person. I wrote about how it opened my eyes to the world, that kind of stuff. And it wasn't just about, oh, I volunteered at an ER. It was about this one personal experience that had a big impact on me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like for me, I found that the essays were a good place to kind of expand on some of the activities, like especially how they affected me personally and why I chose to do them. Like for example, for one of my summer programs, I made this project and I was like inspired by like my grandpa's medical condition, and I wrote about that, like how I wanted to like make something that would help people like him. And I think just overall your college essays should be like not like should be definitely different than your extracurriculars, and you should make them more personal and show a side of you that people don't get to see through your like stats and other activities.
Yeah, most colleges will ask you two basic questions, like why do you want to go to this college? What specifically, like why us? And why did you choose the major that you chose? So those are two questions that you should be prepared to write about for all of your applications, and you should have reasons and, yeah. That being said, UCs are a kind of a different like essay writing process, and I want to talk about that a little bit. Most people will say in your Common App essays, you should be a little more like metaphorical and like meaningful and kind of like flowy artistic writing. I would like agree with that, but for UCs, you have 4 different essays. I think the word limit is 350 words each for those essays, and in those, I would recommend that you be more kind of straight to the point and concise. I think those essays are less about showing off your writing ability than communicating what you want to say. And even to an extent, I think that applies to Common App schools. Focus more on what you want to say and what you want to get across than how you're doing it. Because I think at the end of the day, that will be the most important thing. One of the most helpful tips I got from my college counselor was in writing UC essays. She asked me, what are 4 things that you want the college to know about you? Like, what are 4 qualities, traits about you? And then choose the essay prompts and choose your essay topics based on those 4 things. And you have a lot of leeway in picking what you want to write about for those prompts. And yeah, I really agree with Nathan when he said that you can write about literally anything as long as you find some way to attach meaning to it. For my Common App essay, I wrote about basically Netflix and like different TV shows, and I kind of tied that into my own intellectual curiosity and how I like to dig deeper after I watch something, and like I'm left with so many questions. So I found ways to tie my own personality traits into such a trivial topic as like Netflix.
Um, I wrote about how my background like shaped my interests. And I would recommend, or like, I think a piece of advice I had that was helpful is to not make your essay sound like you're listing a bunch of accomplishments. Like rather than that, you should, or what I did is I started with an anecdote for like I think every essay I wrote, and like because that makes it more memorable for the reader, and just tie that into like what you want to talk, like what you've done.
Yeah, I remember one piece of advice I heard online was like, if your personal statement was on the ground at your high school and your name wasn't on it and someone picked it up and like they knew exactly who it belonged to, then that meant like that would really stand out to a college like admission person because like it just really shows like who you are as a person.
I have one final piece of advice. Someone told me that if you don't cry while writing your college application essays, then they're not personal and meaningful enough. Like while writing them, I think that you should really do some soul searching and dig deep and try and like uncover a part of you that you can put onto paper.
Yeah, that's why you should start early. Don't be like me and
Mhm.
start like on Christmas Eve, because I was writing essays up until like January 8th. And I also gave up on like I was gonna apply to USC, I was gonna apply to UMich. I was like, nah, I don't have the time for that, and then I just didn't apply. Which I mean, ultimately, did I really want to go to the schools? I don't really know, right? But maybe I got in, maybe I don't. But yeah, start early. A lot of people tell you start summer of junior year. You can, but it's also not just starting early, right? It's also making sure you keep up with it because I feel like a lot of us around like maybe September, October, we just took a break from college apps for a bit, because it's not like on the back of your mind. Like maybe your early decision is or your early action is, right? But for the most part, you're thinking about other stuff. You're thinking about school, thinking about all the tests you got to take senior year, right? You don't want your GPA to drop too much, right? You don't want to get like B's or C's, right? So it's a balancing act. And I know someone asked a question about that, and we'd be glad to answer that later. But it's hard to stay motivated, right? But if you can't stay motivated, you have a really big edge over other people, right? Like I have a few friends that finished a lot earlier than us. They actually got to like go have fun. At least for me, right? A lot of like some of my friends actually got to like go out and have fun over New Year's. Right? I was stuck at home writing. I don't know if the rest of you guys here had the same experience. But like, try to not be the person writing common apps on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, that's another really big thing. Start early. Like I know everyone says that and it's kind of a cliche, but the earlier you start, the more time you have. And sometimes for me, like essays I write like 5 months ago, I can look back at now and be like, that was a terrible essay. I have that like hindsight and I have a lot more like ability to kind of edit that and like starting early is the best way to get that advantage. Like personally, I finished my UC essays over the summer, which was really, really great for me because I had a lot more time to focus on Common App essays. And I had already some like essay ideas.
Okay, thank you. What factors are considered when choosing from your acceptance list?
Nathan, you should answer this question.
I can't answer this question.
For those of you who don't know, that's funny because he got in for ED and he can't choose because he got in for ED. And if he did choose, he could be kicked out. So yeah, haha, funny joke. Um, this is an interesting question. If you happen to be like Albert Son and get into like 12 different colleges, then this probably applies to you. For me, I got into like two that I wanted to go to. Um, I guess I was initially scared of U Chicago because everyone says it's a difficult school to attend. Yeah, it's a lot more rigorous than most colleges. Their mathematics program, especially, is generally considered one of the most difficult in America, if not the world. Um, but like, I don't think that you should try. Like, I was talking to a friend, right? And he said, and we were having a little debate, right? I was like, in college you should challenge yourself, right? But his perspective was, no, college is meant for you to go through and then get a good job afterwards, right? So it's different perspectives. We both obviously are correct in our own sort of ways, right? But then ultimately it is sort of balancing out what you want to do, right? Because I don't really know exactly what job I want. He's going into CS, so he pretty much knows what he's going to do in the future. He's going to be a programmer at like some tech company, right? So in that case, right, then yes, his goal for going to college is to go find a nice job, right? Because as a CS major, going to an Ivy League, he's pretty much guaranteed a high two-digit, if not three-digit salary, straight out of college, right? For me, it's gonna be a bit different, right? So I was like, well, I want to see how far I can like take my intellectual pursuits, right? So that's why I chose U Chicago. This was after a bit of debating, a bit of thinking, do I really want to be cooped up studying all the time, right? But like, if you really want to get an idea of what college life is like, I mean, yes, visit the college, right? But obviously you can't do that if there's a pandemic and you can't go on a plane. Um, Another thing that I found useful is to obviously talk to alumni, talk to people that go to the school, and also like even like stuff like Reddit or like internet forums, right? You'll be able to find a lot of information there. Like for example, U Chicago had its own Reddit subreddit. I know a lot of schools have their own Reddit subreddits. You can find stuff on Quora. You can find stuff on, once you've been accepted, you'll generally be invited to the forums, the discussions, a lot of stuff to read there. Basically, do a lot of reading. Um, and then you do have until May 1st. So you get like a month to decide. For some people the decision can be difficult, but for most people I feel it's it's not the hardest choice in the world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I know a lot of us, like I was gonna go visit UMich during like spring break and I wasn't able to. So what I did was mainly just like research online and as well as talk to other alumni and other like accepted students to like Facebook groups and like Discord and stuff like that.
It was pretty easy for me. I didn't have like that many options, so I just chose the one that was best for my major.
I think for me, a lot of people ask me like why I chose UCLA over UC Berkeley. And it was a really, really easy choice for me just because I knew going into college applications that I didn't want to, well, if I had a choice, I'd rather be in LA over Berkeley. And like that's something that's kind of underrated. Location is a really big factor, or it should be a really big factor in deciding where you want to go, because that's where you're basically going to be living for 4 years. And like weather, surrounding towns, stuff like that, surrounding job opportunities, internships, like those are all important factors that tie into location. So that was a big factor for me. Another thing that you need to consider is affordability. I got into some private colleges that I think if were cheaper, I would have gone there over UCLA, but because I'm an in-state student and in-state tuition is way, way more affordable, it's not really something I think that you should consider when you're deciding which schools to apply to as much as when you're deciding which school to attend, because the price becomes a lot bigger of a factor, especially after you get financial aid offers if you do apply for those.
Okay, so now we are going to ask the additional question from the chat box.
So I see 3 additional questions. The first one is, how do you all manage your time and how do you balance extracurriculars, academic, sports, and other interests?
I think one way to balance it is just to know how much time you have at first. You shouldn't be signing up for things just to sign up for things. You should be aware of how much time you think you have, how well you can manage your time, and then you should sign up accordingly.
I read this book. There's just like, I forgot what book, I forgot who said it, but some guy was like, you overestimate the amount of stuff you can do in a day, and you underestimate the amount of stuff you can do in a year, right? So to rephrase that, you only have 24 hours in a day, but over the course of a year, you have a lot more time, right? So even if you think you're busy, you got to make use of your free time, right? And my mom's always been on my I'm just gonna say a bad word. I'm not gonna say the bad word. My mom's always been on my case about using my free time because I like to use my free time sleeping. I like to use my free time going out with friends, and I like to use my free time playing video games, right? And my mom's like, no, you should go learn Python, right? And you know, I mean, do I really want to learn Python? Yes, but do I also want to go out with my friends, go hiking, go get food? Of course I do, right? So there's always balance involved in these things. I mean, during the school year, we all obviously have a lot less time, right? During the school year, you do have to make sacrifices. There's things that you have to give up. And especially if you do a sport, right? You have to, especially if I feel like a lot of the, like people that do sports have the time management thing down because they have to, right? Like if you are on the water polo team and you're dedicated to your like 2 hour practice every day or whatever, if you're on the swim team, you have morning practices, right? You have to manage your time very well, right? Because otherwise you don't have time to do the things that you want to do or the things that you need to do, right? So it's not just a matter of procrastination and whether you get things done. It's like it's like, do you give up having fun for being productive, right? And then ultimately that is a difficult decision to make. And I'm not saying give up all your free time to work on college apps. I'm also not saying don't do college apps and go out with your friends because, you know, that's obviously not the right move. But like, I don't know, attend 1 in 5 parties you're invited to. How about that? That's a good compromise. It's not anything that we can answer immediately. It's not anything we can answer with a concise answer, and it's gonna be different for everyone, right? But if you have a goal in mind, which I mean, obviously we all have a goal. Our goal is to finish college apps. At least that's like the most basic goal, right? Um, Maybe your goal is a bit more broad. Maybe it's a bit more narrow. Maybe you already know what you want to do 4 years from now or 5 years from now, where you want to be job-wise, career-wise, right? But if you have a goal in mind, right? Then time management becomes a lot easier. If you're just sort of living every day without really knowing what you need to get done, that's where the problems come into play. So don't worry too much about balancing. Worry about, like, once again, don't worry about what do I have to get done today. Worry about where do I want to be in a year. If that makes sense.
Okay. The second question is there anyone who plays sports in school team, and how would it help your application? Also, is anyone for recommendation to contact with college coach, and which year in high school would be better?
I played volleyball in high school for 3 years. I played school volleyball, and then I played club, like outside of school. And that was a really, really big time commitment. So if anyone is looking to play sports in high school, like understand that high school sports are like big time commitments. I had practices Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 3 hours a day, and then I had games on Tuesdays and Thursdays from after school, and I had to stay at school until like 7. And then I had like tournaments on Saturdays, every other Saturday. Like that were basically all day from like 8 a.m. to like 3 or 4 p.m. So I don't say this to like scare you away from playing sports. Sports, like volleyball was one of the best experiences of high school. It allowed me to meet so many different people that I wouldn't have met if it weren't for like volleyball. But just understand that it is an additional time commitment, and it is something that you will be juggling with schoolwork and extracurriculars. Personally, I didn't really mention it other than like in my activities list. So it really depends on the extent you want to get involved with in sports. But if you like go to a tournament and you win that tournament and you win an award, you can maybe list that under awards. So I would recommend playing sports less to help your application, but more just because it's a sport that you enjoy and you want to pursue in high school. And in terms of connecting with college coaches, I personally didn't because it wasn't something I was interested in. But I would recommend, I think, reaching out, like starting to research colleges sophomore year and reaching out sophomore, junior year. I have a friend that is going to Swarthmore for tennis. So sports are definitely a very valid, legitimate way to get into colleges if that's something you're really, really strong in.
I guess I'll go next. So I played water polo every year of high school, and I was on the swim team for 2 years. And I played water polo off seasons with the club team, and I was the captain of the JV team for water polo one of my years, and I guess in that way it helped my application because like putting something on your application helps your application, but also I guess being the captain gave me the sort of leadership experience, personal growth, that kind of stuff that you can also write about in your essays. Like maybe, and sports can also be used in essays. Like you can write about maybe just one experience that you had in sports, though it's pretty overdone. So maybe think about it a bit before you do so. But in regards to scouting and like college and that kind of stuff, I never really considered it. Like I do want to play sports in college, but not at, you know, like a professional level, just for fun. Though, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Angela. I have a few friends that got into college on sports scholarships, and it's always good to start early. I know somebody at Doherty got scouted out for soccer in their sophomore year for UCSD. So yeah, it's always good to start early.
The third question is if you have the opportunity to re-spend your high school, how would you like to do it differently?
There's a small thing that I wish I did differently, and it's still kind of related to college applications. I wish I like established better connections with my teachers, and like I'm not extroverted, so I have to like really get out of my comfort zone to do that, to like go up to teachers and like start a conversation with them. But like that's really important because by the end of your junior year or like beginning of senior year, you have to ask like 2 or 3 teachers for recommendation letters, and like you want to make sure that they know who you are.
And I guess to add on to that, which isn't related to the question, but like actually become friends with your teachers. Like don't just talk to them to get a rec letter. Like actually get to know them, that kind of stuff, and it'll help a lot with that sort of thing. But in terms of how I wish I respent my high school, I guess I wish I had less parent influence. I know a lot of parents are kind of on their kids a lot, and it's always good to let your kid experience things how they want to a certain extent, of course. You shouldn't just be like going haywire, but I guess it helps. I wish I could have found my sense of direction for myself a little earlier by having a little more independence, I suppose.
Yeah, one thing I kind of regret is not trying out as many different things in high school, especially like in freshman and sophomore year. I feel like most of my time was just spent like doing schoolwork, and like I never played a sport or tried any like different clubs. So I guess just I wish I could have tried out for things that were out of my comfort zone.
So my mom asked this question, so I feel like I'm obligated to answer. Uh, like I live with this principle that I don't really regret anything. Because if you regret anything, that means that you're admitting defeat and you're letting your past hold you back. I mean, obviously that's how I see it. That's not how everyone else sees it, right? But I like to think that everything that happens like for a reason, not necessarily because of fate, but because like that's what like I needed to do to maybe learn or move on. Um, so there's nothing that I regret in high school, but like yes, it would have been nice if I joined more clubs freshman year. It would have been nice if I tried out for a sport. I went to Doherty from like a not feeder school, right? Most people that go to Doherty come from Gale or Winmer, right? I went to Della Vista as in middle school, so then I didn't really know anyone when I went to Doherty, right? So then it kind of makes sense that I didn't really get to sort of like have as many connections or join as many clubs as maybe I should have, right? Um, but ultimately, like I still found people I could really like relate to. I still found like a group of friends that I still trust a lot to this day, right? Like I still found like in like jazz band, like for example, jazz band's a pretty small group, and everyone like in the group, you know, we're sort of like a family, right? Everyone knows each other very well. We all talk to each other outside of school. So if I could redo things, would I do things differently? Yes, but I don't think any of us are unsatisfied with where we are now, right? So there's no point looking back.
Thank you. So, what do you think made you stand out comparing to other applied kids?
I think we kind of touched on this earlier. I think it depends, like for each person, it's probably different, but I would say for most people, it just might be like their essays that they write in their college applications.
And definitely extracurriculars, stuff that you wouldn't really see other people doing a lot, like a job.
I guess we're like the generic as Asians, as Chinese students predominantly. We don't really stand out in the college application process, right? Especially like just on paper, right? Like we all have decent GPAs, we all did good in the SAT. And like yes, you can say extracurriculars make us stand out, right? But there's still a lot of people doing what we do. Like not saying that we're not unique. I'm not saying that I'm not unique, but like from a personal standpoint, even though I did good in the AMC, right? There's like what thousands, maybe not thousands, but hundreds of competitive applicants that are Asian males that did good in the AMC, right? So like if you want to stand out, it's not so much about standing out from other applicants as it is being yourself. Being yourself is what makes you stand out the most. Oscar Wilde once said something along the lines of be yourself because every other position is taken. The only one that you can fill is yourself, right? So don't try to be something you're not. Like what makes you stand out is who you are yourself. And like as an Asian male applying to college, like who we are isn't necessarily the most spectacular thing in the world, right? We're not coming from poverty. We didn't move here from Kazakhstan. Oh, none of like the crazy success stories, right? None of us have the most amazing stories like behind us, right? So we can't let our story define us. We can't allow ourselves to be defined by like one idea, right? It's many things that make us who we are. And that's what's difficult about the college application process, right? Because if there's many things that they're considering, we have to make ourselves unique in many ways, right? I know in China, the 高考, right? 高考你考完了过后，你去哪个大学就是你考得多好，对不对？美国不是这样子的，所以你肯定说哦，那你必须写 essay 写得特别棒，对不对？那不是那样子的。Doesn't matter how good your essays are. It does, but that's not it. That's not the entire thing, right? There's a bigger picture behind it, and ultimately you have to remember that like yes, we're going to college. Yes, everyone should like in this day and age, most people do go to college, right? But like once again, what college you go to is just one facet of many, many things that make us who we are. So like college is important. That's why we go to high school. That's why you guys are in the seminar, right? Because you guys value college. But like I promise you, 10 years down the line, I'm not gonna look back and be like, oh, good thing I got into a good college. None of us are gonna be like that, right? Because 10 years down the line, does it matter? Yes. But are there hundreds of things that will matter more? Even more definitely so.
And just to add a few like generic things that can make you stand out, or like what colleges do look for, presenting yourself as intellectually curious, presenting yourself as passionate about the things that you're doing. There's so many different ways to do this, but the easiest method is through your essays. If you can really demonstrate passion and excitement and curiosity, like you'll be better off.
Cool. Thank you. So for the question about the link, it's already in the checkbox. So one more question is, how do you find people in the profession you are interested in to ask questions and see what the career is like?
So I have an answer to this one, but it also kind of ties into the question about finding nonprofits. Occasionally, in your neighborhood or in your city center or library, they'll host these. It's sort of like a college fair. It's a volunteer fair. I ran a few of those. I didn't run a few of those. I went to a few of them on behalf of Play, and they basically, everybody sets up a booth like advertising their volunteer opportunities, and you can sign yourself up, you can sign a group up. That's one way you can find these volunteer type things. And I guess in terms of professions you're interested in, there are going to be professions that you're interested in at these volunteer fairs. That's actually how I found the ER volunteering. Is I went to one of the volunteer fairs and they had a booth set up where it's like, oh, we're offering positions at the Stanford Valley Care ER, so sign up if you're interested. I'm like, wow, okay, I want to do this. And that's how I got connected with them. And at that place, I became even more connected with like people in the profession, like actual doctors, nurses, that kind of stuff.
So your school counseling center can also be a really great resource. I know a lot of people don't really go to their school counselors or their college and career center, but basically every school has a college and career center, and it's a resource that you should use if you're trying to find professionals in the fields that you're interested in. Maybe they have like a career fair or something like that, but just use the resources that you have.
Yeah, I remember my Michigan interviewer, he like studied CS at Michigan probably like a few years ago, and I was talking to him for like about an hour, and we just talked about like his career plans that he had after college, and I think that really gave me a lot of insight about like the different career pathways you can have that are after college.
Just a quick thing. There's nothing wrong with like finding career paths while you're in college. If anything, like even if like for example, my plan is to study something general and then narrow it down while I'm there, because like I'm sure I can talk to my professors, my TAs, the people around me. I'll find some internships, maybe then gather to see what I'm interested in, right? So like you don't necessarily have to know exactly what profession you're doing now, right? A lot of people don't, so don't worry about that. A lot of people like, I mean, if you're doing engineering or something, then yeah, you're probably, or if like for example, Nathan's doing pre-med, right? So therefore, he's pretty sure what he's going to do in the future, right? If you're doing pre-med, you're probably going to be a doctor of some sort, right? But like if you're doing something more like, if you're not sure, don't be stressed. It's not a big deal. It's not an issue at all. You have plenty of time to figure that out while you're in college. And it's a lot easier to figure out there because you're surrounded by the resources that will guide you a lot more effectively.
Okay, the last question is it necessary to find volunteer opportunities related to your future major in college?
Definitely not. You can, like, I wouldn't say it's necessary to do anything, but that can be a really good way to become immersed in whatever you choose to major in college and experience like real world how that major is actually used. That being said, there's a lot of different ways to do that, and volunteering doesn't have to be like specifically focused on whatever you want to major in college. Especially with volunteering, I would recommend maybe finding different causes that you're interested in that aren't necessarily related to your major, and that can be another way to show and present yourself as a multifaceted person with different interests and passions.
Actually, regarding volunteer opportunities, I have something to add. Yeah, you don't need to find volunteering opportunities related to your future major. But one thing I learned with volunteering is it's always good to volunteer to your community. Because again, there are a lot of people that will go to underprivileged areas in like Mexico and they'll build houses, and that's good. It's good to do that, but also consider your own community and things that are going on around you. I remember last year, Play went to volunteer at the campfires a lot up north, and that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is close to me. This directly affects me, and yeah, that's something that you should look for in volunteer opportunities.
gonna say that. I was gonna say that exact point.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good that you mentioned it because I think it shows that you care, right? It shows that you care about your community and you're not just doing it for the sake of volunteering. I have a bit of a like not like a hatred, but like I do dislike the whole idea of volunteerism. It seems fake. Like from an economic standpoint, you're spending way too much money to go do way too little, right? Like if you're flying to Mexico to build a house, why not just build a house here, right?
Okay, that's all the time we have for questions. Thank you so much for your time, seniors. Let's give a round of applause for Angela, Andi, Nathan, Ashley, and Catherine.
Next, we have a question for the fathers of the graduating seniors.
Oh,
What
nice.
was
Okay, we're actually going to skip that.
oh
I wanted to watch it. Oscar looks amazing.
Oh, actually, we're not going to skip the recording. We're just going to
Oh,
skip the question for the fathers.
okay.
Oh,
So next we will play a music recording brought to you by the Play Music. It's dedicated to all of the amazing fathers of play.
Thank you, Play Music. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you for attending the 2020 Play College Seminar. Congratulations to all of the graduating seniors, and have a happy Father's Day. See you all next time. Bye.
Bye.